China will be bringing a delegation of 30 members of its government, high-ranking officials. They'll be met across the table with the delegation from the White House that includes the U.S. Trade Representative Bob Lighthizer, the Treasury Secretary Larry Kudlow from NEC, Secretary Ross from Commerce, and the infamous China hawk Peter Navarro representing manufacturing policy from the White House. Now, it's going to be 2 days of talks, but the White House has been clear to manage expectations. The president is expected to have at least one meeting with China's Vice Premier Liu He, and China's expectation is that if there were to be any progress made on a deal, it would need the president's sign-off. So we'll be watching to see if that remains on the calendar very closely. The White House says that the two sides will be discussing structural changes as well as China's pledge to reduce the U.S. trade deficit via more goods purchases. And interestingly, Politico is reporting that Ambassador Lighthizer told lawmakers that there is no appetite to delay this March 1st deadline after which tariffs would go up, which is certainly interesting because we have seen in these talks if the U.S. feels like there's progress, then they're willing to move the goalpost. We've seen there be a little bit more increasing pressure on the president to make a deal, what with some of the economic issues going on across the earnings spectrum that we've seen with NVIDIA, with Apple, with others, and also with the government shutdown, potentially cutting down his standing across the Republican Party. Industry has been weighing in as well. They have been tallying the cost of the tariffs, saying that they remain biting into their profits, but at the same time cautioning the U.S. not to take too easy of a deal, not to fall for the low-hanging fruit of just asset purchases. Here's one statement from the biotechnology industry that they put out last night, saying essentially any prospective trade deal with China cannot be based simply on a promise to buy more U.S. products. Such a bargain would fail to address the long-standing impediments that have contributed to the trade deficit with China. So you're seeing companies say, so long as we're in this trade fight, keep at it, get what you came for, and don't fall for the low-hanging fruit here, Becky.
Kayla, we started taking a look at all the people who'd be in the room negotiating, and obviously that's the full gamut of opinions of those advisors who think that we should be trying to make a deal and those who are a little more reluctant. Who, though, is going to be running point on this? Who's the person who's leading the talks?
It is Ambassador Lighthizer, the U.S. Trade Representative, who is a China hawk himself. He has been pushing a harder line than others in the room during these negotiations, but ultimately the buck stops with the president. And I think that even though there's been a lot of focus on the talks this week, the Associated Press summed it up best in their headline. Hopes are high, but expectations are low. And in all of my conversations with people, they say focus on the back half of February, because that is when the amount of progress that is made, when China's potential willingness to really make good on any of these long-term issues, that's going to come into the focus then. And it really depends on how the president feels waking up in the morning at the end of February and whether he feels pressure to make a deal, whether by U.S. companies, by the stock market, by any data that comes out, or whether he feels like he can keep digging his heels in.